I hate risk. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 types of specific risk I think every nomad capitalist should avoid. Because while you may think that I've taken on a lot of risk in my life, from never having a real job to starting numerous businesses, giving up one of the world's best citizenships, and living in all corners of the world, to me, everything I've done is actually to reduce my risk in life. Let's talk about how you can use Nomad Capitalist to reduce your risk. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you'd like to learn how Nomad Capitalist and our team can help you create a holistic offshore strategy, go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can learn all about it. Now let's talk about risk. Some people might say I've taken calculated risks. The average person would say I've taken a lot of risk. And people probably have told you that as well. Starting a business at 19 years old, people thought I was crazy. But I remember the thing that my father was most proud of when his clients and friends would ask him, how's adult Andrew doing these days? He said, Andrew will pick up the phone and he'll call anyone. And it was true. I was fearless. I just went out and I said, whoever wants to buy something that I'm selling, I will call them. The rejection won't matter. And so I learned very early on the first type of risk that I had to avoid, which was income risk. See, most people are afraid to pick up the phone and call everyone, but if you've been successful, if you're one of the 7 or 8-figure entrepreneurs we talk to, chances are you started out in a similar way. You know what's really risky? Going and working at a job where you have no access to the books. You don't know what's going on in the company. You have one income stream. Maybe you deliver pizzas at night. You have 2 income streams. Maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe you do something on the side and you have 2 income streams. But you're not totally in control of your income if you, in my opinion, aren't willing to pick up the phone. That's really risky to the average person. But from the nomad capitalist perspective, it's the only way to guarantee your success. Because you know that when you're in control, you have the ability to dictate your income. The reality today is anyone can pick up a phone. Anyone can learn to make a website. Anyone can create a sales page. It's been totally democratized. And what's interesting is how many of us went door to door selling cookies when we were kids. People sold Girl Scout cookies. I would always go out and sell the magazines, whatever it was, for the school. When I got older, I created my own magazine and went door to door selling that. And then I went door to door selling people on the idea of having me make a website to sell their house before real estate agencies went online. To me, that is the only way to avoid risk when it comes to your income. If you want to eat, you have to be in control. Risk number 2, debt risk. I look at the United States in particular. I see well over $1 trillion in student loan debt that people have taken out. They've saddled themselves with debt that is not bankruptable in one of the largest loan bubbles in history, all with the hopes of ignoring rule number 1, ignoring income risk, and going out and getting a job and hoping that in this day and age, if you have a great degree, and a lot of times, people go to these great universities. If only I go to a private university that costs 3 times as much. If only, I try and go to the more expensive school, people will take me more seriously. As a business owner, I don't look at people's resume for where they went to school. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And no one else that I know who's hiring people really cares whether you went to Harvard or whether you went to Southwest Mississippi State. If you have the skills to do the job, we want you on our team. But people are going out and saddling themselves with all these debt. People in the boom times are now going out all around the world and buying real estate with a lot of leverage. People are going out and building income portfolios. I look around YouTube and I see people who talk about all the money they make every month from buying real estate and how smart they are because they're 90% leveraged and they can just keep buying more and more and more properties, except we've seen this game before. We've seen how this can turn out when people don't have a lot of skin in the game. Now, some of these people would say, well, you could just strategically default. You could just walk away from a non-recourse mortgage loan. I happen to think that's unethical. And I happen to think that, you know, by doing that, you're setting yourself up not for long-term legacy building, not for long-term wealth creation where you're reducing risk, but you're actually setting yourself up for a short-term way to grab some cash. And quite frankly, what I would say is by being a nomad capitalist, by creating your own income, living anywhere in the world, controlling your tax rate, you're building up more income. That income can then go into more real estate, more business deals, more anything with less debt. I personally have zero debt because to me, debt is risk. And I hear people who they say, Andrew, why don't you borrow money on a credit card in the United States at 0% for 18 months and put that in, a foreign stock market and make 10%, or invest that in some of these real estate markets, you say, and pocket the spread. And there was a time when I found that intriguing, the arbitrage opportunity. How much money can I borrow? But debt is risk, and I don't want to have the risk that what happens if my foreign real estate falls apart? What happens if it doesn't go rented? What happens if I can't sell it? How do I pay the bill? I don't want debt. And I think the beautiful thing about controlling your income, and controlling your income in a global citizen nomad capitalist way, is you don't have to take on debt to accomplish your goals. Risk number 3 is geographical risk. Now you could interpret this a number of ways. When people ask, Andrew, you had one of the world's best citizenships, why wouldn't you want to keep that? I said, because you know what's risky? Do you know what's a lot riskier than having to go and apply for a visa if I want to visit New Zealand? What's a lot riskier is being out in the world, running a business, where the country that I was born in but no longer lives micromanages my every move, from which forms I have to file, to how I'm allowed to do business in other countries, to whom I can sell to all the way down the line. That's pretty risky. Now, if you live in the United States and you like that and you've got a job because you don't control your income, then it's not risk for you. But for me, it was a lot of risk. And so geographical risk could be the geography of your citizenship. It could be the geography of where you live. Are you able to make as much money as possible? I've talked about how I think you have a much higher probability of winning with a rather simple startup idea in a frontier market than you do in any developed country, because the odds are much more in your favor. There aren't as many people to compete with, if in some cases any people to compete with. But the real geographical risk for me, when people say, Andrew, you invest in Colombia, in Cambodia, in Georgia, all these emerging countries, people say, that's silly. Why not put your money in a 401k or a government-sponsored retirement account? Why aren't you getting the match? Well, I'm not getting the match because I don't have income risk. I don't have a job, therefore no one can match my money. But the reason I take investments all around the world is because I don't want the risk of being stuck in an underperforming market, a market with lots of ups and downs like many places in the United States, or as we've seen recently in Australia, where markets go through tremendous highs and then come crashing down. In many of the markets where I invest, property prices haven't dropped in 10 years or 20 years. Some countries haven't had a recession in your lifetime almost. And so to me, what I want to do is I want to come to markets where I can pay cash to eliminate debt risk. I can take the money that I've earned by controlling my income, controlling my tax rate, and put that money into properties that are core properties, that are Tier A properties, that I know will, in most markets, maintain their value, or at least maintain their value a lot better. And so what I don't want to do is have the geographical risk. To me, what's a lot riskier is going to the fourth ring suburb of Sydney or Boston or London and saying, well, I don't have £3 million to buy something in the middle of London, so I'm going to go out an hour and a half. To me, that's a lot more risky, because what happens geographically when people decide they don't want to live there anymore? Because that's a new town that's only existed for 10 or 20 years. And it was created, and maybe in the next recession it goes away because people just decide it's not worth living so far out. To me, I want to be in control of my money. I don't want to own any money, and I want to own assets that are of great quality. I think that from that perspective, Nomad Capitalist really shifts the game for a lot of people who are living and banking and investing and doing all their business in one country. That if you look at it globally, Queen Creek, Arizona is a lot less recession resistant than next to the royal palace in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, where property prices have gone nowhere but up for 22 years. Most importantly, though, I certainly don't want to give control of my money to anyone who works for the government and say, hey, let me put this in a retirement account where I can't touch it for 30 years. And you guys can make whatever series of rules that you want. And you guys can take it, you can change it, you can change the tax rate, you can change the terms, and I can't do anything. To me, being in control, having strong assets, those are the ways to reduce risk. For everyone who looks at Nomad Capitalist as being risky, to me, everything else is risky. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.